So last time, I welded in floor pans. Now, my tailgate doesn't close correctly. Tried to fix that, I broke some bolts off. Want to see how we fix all that? Stick around. So like I said in the intro, the tailgate isn't really latching properly anymore. And as I tried to fix it, I made things even worse. So in this episode, we're going to dive into fixing all of that. And then there is a ton of work to be done on this tailgate in order to make it fully functional. We need the latch mechanism completely working. We need a window added in there with a regulator. So we've got a ton of work to do to make this thing actually do its job. Let's get stuck into it. First step is going to be taking care of the bolt that's broken off right there. Well, it does look like it's tack welded in. It's in a pocket that was tack welded in after the fact, and there's not enough height here to try and tap it up and get it out. So I'm going to remove a couple of those spot welds and see if I can't get that out. Huh. It's not even a full plate. Interesting. Alright, let's see if we can get that nubbin out of there. That's warm. Alright, so that obviously wasn't too bad. Especially, welding a nut to it that way pours a ton of heat into it, which helps break it free. And then also, I was actually threading it through. I wasn't trying to thread it back out because the top broke off of here, and I was pulling it out the other side. So it threaded out pretty cleanly. We'll just clean this up a little bit, give it a lick of paint, and get it back in there. So we've got that little piece painted up, and you can hear the heat gun blasting away in the background to go ahead and dry that paint up decently for us here in the cold. So I'm going to start tapping away at this, try and hammer some of what I pushed out a little bit flat back this way. And honestly, I need to finish drilling these holes to get it prepped for spot welding it back together. Alright, well I dug through the hardware that I saved from disassembling the actual Travelall, and I found a bolt with what looks like the same thread pitch. Unfortunately, it is a different head size. Excuse me, I've got the hiccups. It is a different head size, which is annoying, but it'll do for now to get this back in place, and I can always swap it out with another bolt later. So I'm gonna give one of these a shmoo of this stuff here. A little bit of anti-seize. So with that step finished, we're just going to try closing this again and see if it latches and how it goes from there. Well, that side seems to latch fine. It is this side that's causing me the grief. And I am really not sure where the grief is. just adjusted this side last night and I just broke another one off. Ah! Oh well. For the purposes of this experiment, we only need the two. So I'm just putting it back together with those, and we'll worry about that other problem in a minute. Last night it was acting like it was rubbing on the edge of this onto the door, but now it's acting like I actually need to put those shims back in there. The thick ones. So I guess I can try to. Here's another one. It's definitely still binding up pretty hard. And I'm not completely sure where. I'm probably going to have a second set of hands to really figure out where this needs to be living and get it into that place. So I guess take those back out, get back on that side, and same job we did over here. Drill out the spot welds, get that thing out, clean it up, and then put it all back together. I honestly thought it would come out pretty easily because I've moved it before. So I just tried cutting a slot in it and making it a flathead. That did not work. So there's basically nothing left. There's just a bit of a nub in here is all there is. And this is the side that it threaded in from. But I still don't have a lot sticking out. So what we're going to do this time is use a washer to make it easier to get down in there. And then we'll weld a nut to the washer. Then as you're backing it out, just work it back and forth a little bit so anything caught in it can kind of get chewed up by the threads or chewed out. Owie, that's pretty warm. Alright, not bad. So we're going to do the same thing again. Clean this all down, paint it, clean up and paint in there where we can, and put it back together. So with that all back installed and welded back up, we're going to turn to all of these welds that are still ugly in here and get that cleaned up. There it is. I need to prime and paint everywhere that everywhere that I've welded at least. And then I will need to go back over and seam seal everything that I've built here. But it's done now. I'm there. And it feels awesome. I've got new motivation. I'm loving this thing again. Let's get in there and start priming. Let's get this stuff taken care of. Oh, man. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm way happy with how that looks now that it's all just painted and you're not really seeing it highlighting all of the crap I didn't do that well. Sweet. All right, well, I gotta let that dry. I gotta pick up some more primer and some more paint. And I'm not sure what we're on to next. Maybe we'll just seam seal this and repaint. I don't know yet. Hey guys, I've got what seam sealing I'm going to do from the inside done. You can see there, well, kind of, the reflection makes it hard to see, but the gray stripes are seam seal. Same thing over here. Where that stupid light is reflecting is actually a stripe of seam seal. So I've got the wheel wells all around, including around the base, totally seam sealed. I'm not going to do any more seam seal around any of this area from the interior. Biggest reason being, I was reading that container of seam seal I bought, and it actually says not recommended for automotive interiors due to solvent smells. So I did the most important bits and will hope that scent isn't terrible or dissipates over time. It is what it is, I'll deal with it. But those areas can kind of be closed off by the metal panels that will go in, whereas all of this area here cannot. So I'm not going to put any more on the interior. Instead, all the rest of my seam sealing will be done from underneath. So with that all in place, it's time to start moving on to a new part of the project. I will do all the rest of the seam sealing. I've got to seam seal and undercoat under all of this, but I have to order stuff. I ordered that one tube of seam seal because I honestly just had no idea how far it would go. I think I'm going to need 2 more. Then I'm going to need a few cans of undercoat or an undercoat spray kit, one of the two. And I'm also going to need the... Oh, brain just shut down. Hold on. Man, it's a bad one. I'm going to need the... Oh, the other thing I'm going to need, but not for this, instead, I will need it for all of that, is the fiberglass filler Bondo. The fiberglass reinforced Bondo. That stuff, I'm told, is the best to go over exterior seams, so I'll also need some of that to keep moving on the rear metalwork kind of progress part. So, I'm going to move on to something else that I do have the parts for right now, and a job that's different and new, so I'm actually looking forward to it. A while back, you guys may remember, I bought that. That is the tailgate off of a 1987 Suburban. My tailgate has nothing. It's totally hollow. I am missing the interior panel that would fill this. They're, I believe, bolted to right here, the motor assembly for the window. I'm missing the window. I am missing the handle. Instead, I have this sweet cable to open the tailgate latches. But hey, at least it works. So I am missing a lot. Basically everything. I have a hollow shell and nothing else for my tailgate. So I found that and bought that for pretty cheap at a local junkyard. It has the handle. It obviously has a whole backside. It has a window regulator inside of it. And I did actually also pick up the window. That's a Suburban rear window right there. But I actually just kind of for fun tried test fitting that recently, and it's far too wide. There is no way I can make use of it. Additionally, it has a nice curve to it, and my tracks are dead flat. So I'm not going to be able to use that window. Instead, I'm actually going to buy a flat piece of safety glass. I hope I can actually get it in the green tint because it looks like my windows here are all lightly tinted. So hopefully I can get some green tint glass, but I'm going to have to look into that, and it's not uber critical right now. So instead, let's take a look at this and see what it's going to take. So on that Suburban panel, it's just kind of that center 3/4 that comes out. Center 2/3 maybe? I don't know. You can see motor and assembly and the bracket for it and all that fun in there, as well as some wiring for all of that. So you can see that that just comes out of the middle of that unit. Here is what that unit looks like on the Travelall. I'm going to have to stand on the Travelall to get high enough to really show you. There we go. So you can see it only fills the center 2/3 of the Travelall, more or less. And height-wise, it's actually pretty perfect. If I pull it up tight up here, which is where it is, you can see it fits really nicely down there. It actually almost makes, I can't really get the camera to an angle where you can see it, but it almost makes a smooth angle right down, like as a nice transition straight down. It's actually really pretty clean. So this idea is sound. However, I'm looking at a couple of things. I would either need to obtain another one of these and maybe just give it some of that fun type idea, or what I actually think I'm going to do, which is with this more or less centered, I am going to build filler panels out of these sections. So I will cut chunks out of this tailgate. I will try to roll the edges over nicely. The chunks I have to cut, I measured earlier, actually come about out to here. So I will have a little bit of a problem right here. This probably won't be nicely shaped, and I'll have to manually fill that in, unfortunately. And that'll be true on both sides down there as well. And then I will also have to come up with something to fill in this void here. And that's just to create the rear panel. Once I have that rear panel made, I still have to deal with gutting all of this stuff out. This motor mounts to this giant bracket that goes the entire top to bottom. This handle fits in its little pocket. I'm going to reuse this handle, but that handle is actually wider than this, so I'm probably going to have to cut this out to put that handle in. Also, this tailgate is quite large and actually super freaking heavy. And because I still have this table that I used to use for my welder and I haven't really figured out what I'm doing with it, I have no space that's really that good for me to cut this thing. So I'm just going to try to put the camera where it can kind of see something and shoehorn my way in there and get this thing cut apart. Here we go. Alrighty. It ain't yet fantabulous, but it gives you the idea of what I'm looking for. Hammer that flat. I don't know if I will leave that or not. That's yet to be determined. It's very nearly symmetric in, or it is symmetric basically top to bottom. So I could actually put these down at the bottom corner by installing them upside down, And I might end up with not having to fill that, not needing to fill that, because the slightly ugly corner will be mostly down to the bottom and I'll probably care less. So with this piece, I think cut to the proper length, I need to tighten the roll. You can see there's a little bit of a roll here, but I need it to be tighter. I need it to tip over farther. Looks like my cut wasn't quite as clean as I would have liked it to be either. Oh well. So I just have this T-dolly. It's just a piece of round bar welded to something I can grab in the vise. So I'm just going to roll that edge over a little bit farther. Alright, so there is where we have ended up for now. You can see seems pretty strong. I'm standing on it. Don't really have any concerns about that. So got to do some tidying up in the corners, obviously some tidying up along that, and decide what I am going to do here. I haven't decided if I'm going to put in just another filler piece or if maybe I'll fill this and put that in. So maybe my next step will be I just need to cut this whole center section completely out of the shell. This is the Suburban tailgate handle. And it looks from there like it's maybe a perfect fit, but the reality is it's just a bit too wide. It can't get all the way down in there. So this pocket is a bit too small to really fit this. But regardless, see if I can make that fit that way. But in order to do that, I have a bunch of old contraption in here that I'm going to need to remove. You can kind of see it moving there. So I'm going to get to work figuring out how to get that contraption out. Unfortunately, I did not realize that my camera died only about halfway through the work I was doing last night. So there's a bunch of stuff done here that you guys haven't seen, so let's catch you up. About where it died, I had just temporary welded the original Travelall handle patch back into here. I spent a good while trying to see if I could fit the handle to that patch. Then I tried fitting the handle down here. The handle fit down here and I could make it work, except that it was another 4 or 5 inches farther into the Travelall that actually using it was really uncomfortable. So this was me trying another tactic where I just made up this quick little plate and bolted the handle to it. I'll have to make a new one if I go with this method. You can see how hacked up this is. It was just to try and see if everything would work. Put a couple of tack welds into this plate, but the bottom still jumping around, just so that I could make use of the actual handle assembly. And the reason I wanted to do that is I took the lock rods out of the Suburban tailgate as well, to try and make the handle function. So you can see if I lock that or not. Dang it, come on. Now it's unlocked. Darn it, come on. Man, that thing's gotten really stiff in the cold. Yeah, it's unlocked. It's just not springing back now, dang it. In reality, those do work, but it's cold enough out here that they're just sticking real hard. So currently, that handle is quote-unquote functional. Obviously, there's a major downside to going this route. And that is, this thing sticks up, you know, a good 1.5 inches from here. But the problem is I have to have this high enough that the hooks do not interfere. If I mount this down lower into the tailgate, then those hooks actually will be in the way of the window functioning. The window won't be able to pass through this opening. I can try recessing it down into here again, but it's just so far down that that's actually more of an inconvenience. I won't be loading giant heavy things into here so often that I'm worried about that handle for the interim. I am going to keep the original piece of the Travelall that went here. Went down there. So that in the future, if I manage to find a handle assembly, a latching assembly for a price I'm willing to pay, then I can put that into this, and I think that will work fine. It's just that currently what I am able to find just costs too much. So I'm okay going with this for now, and just planning on perhaps having to revisit it sometime in the future. I'd cut out some reinforcement that was in the Travelall when I was trying to fit the handle down there. This thing is a mangled mess. So my first few items on the agenda are going to be getting this put back in. I'm going to have to make a new one of these that's not so rough. And then I'm also going to cut all of this down to where I can actually set it in where it's supposed to be, and then I will weld all of that thing in as well. You can see this is where it used to grab. It grabs here now. I extended this just by welding a bolt onto it and putting a few tacks of weld on it to actually push on the actuator. just hammered these shut so they weren't sticking up anymore. I'll probably still have to manipulate it a bit, but that's a good start. I'm having another problem where it's hanging up on return. Could be because of that washer I added, I'm not really sure. But we're going to take this one problem at a time. Ah, crap. I unlatched that safety latch, and hey, it works. Okay, safety latch taken care of. Nope, seems to work even less somehow. Alrighty, here we are many tinkerings later. I did a bunch of lubricating. I took this out and messed with the spring a little bit. I messed with the washer I welded on to space it out some more. I messed with the actual latch and put a bracket inside of it to reinforce it a little bit so it doesn't bend quite as easily. So I've done a bunch of little things here. And I have no idea if any of them are actually going to help. It now functions really well. That. Like, these click and return. All of that is fantastic. So I'm hoping that I've gotten it to where it'll work well. But I honestly don't know. Oh, I didn't stake those or wire those in, I don't think. So I think they fell out. Nope, I did not attach those properly. Well, that seemed pretty good. Alright. I'm going to wire those in so that they don't fall out. And try that again. So I've got those wired in place now. Make sure, yep, everything's good. With those wired in place so they don't fall out, let's try this. That took almost no effort that time. I don't know which of the 15 little things that I did really helped, but that took... I can do that one-handed with just my palm resting on this now. I'm not fighting it. I'm not stressing against it. Yes! That is awesome. I am so excited by that. Like, that's... Moving parts are not something I'm great at, so this was really challenging for me to try and get all the pieces lined up. I built this inset. I put this into place. I've modified the actual unit some. I lengthened the rod. I've custom lengthened these rods and built custom levers out at the ends. I don't know if it was every bit of that or just one piece of it, but all of those things together have ended up with this being a functional tailgate lever. It's not the best because it sticks up, and that sucks a little bit, but it's way better than having it another 4 inches down. It really is, I think. So, I'm going to roll with that for now, and it may get changed later, but... That is awesome. Man, that makes me happy.